Good morning, early birds. How are you? This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and I am, sometimes I get on and it's really kind of funny. If somebody wanted to say, look how she changes personalities, she can change personalities just like that. No, not really. No, I don't. There are some concerns I have earlier in the day that I don't always share. Because I have been accused of being a Looney Tunes. Come on, what evidence do they have for that? Me, a Looney Tune? Come on. Nothing about me is cartoonish. Except for maybe like that Jessica Rabbit. What is that about? Weirdos making weirdo cartoons? This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I am the teacher here in the classroom where we jump from one topic to the next while keeping all of our ideas that are kind of scattered all over the place in a very presentable, organized manner. We do it. They said it was impossible, but we do it here in the classroom. We do. Day 257. Look at the date. Already changed. Oh, what else do you have to see? What was she doing? Ta-da! New and beautiful flowers. Look at how beautiful. I did put the old, not that you're old, much more beautiful and mature, those flowers. So you could see the lily is not doing so well. I have some new lilies in there, which are the dark red ones. Oh my gosh, those are so unbelievably beautiful. Not unbelievable, but close. When you look close up at it, it becomes sort of unbelievable. It does. All those smashing colors, because they are. They are smashing. And you could see I put the big pom-poms in there too. They were holding out a little bit and they kind of wanted to be in the game. These are some of my favorites too, but I love all flowers. But these are really hardy. They last a long time. I don't know what those are called at all. These are mums from the mum shelf. Oh, look at, I changed things up and dusted this off too. Did you notice the glare? And so we've got the little donkey sitting in the flower. I don't think I like that though. I think I like the flowers down here where they belong. But the donkey does like being up there. He told me. So I'm turning this around to see the rest of the lilies, but I'm going to make a mess of the scene, and I am not one to try and drop things around here. I like to put them away. I like to be able to touch them without dropping because I know where they're all at, and that's what I like. So that's what we have going on so far in the classroom on day number 257. Thank you for joining me. As I've said, I think that's the third time I've said it. Let's get going here, and let me tell you what's going on, early birds. So first of all, we are going to do 2 stories today for reading comprehension. We did all of our stories, all of our poetry from our book, The Children's Book of Faith, right? So we did all the poetry from the book. And now I wanted to pick out 2 stories that I thought would really reflect the concept that we're talking about, which is religious freedom. The freedom to be able to talk and express your real strong beliefs in something that's better, that's higher than you. That's what we're trying to get to, right? So religious freedom. Now, I did find out where we're starting with Dorothea Dix's book for our science class. I am so excited about that. I am, because I was a little bit worried. Are these going to be concepts for early birds or anybody? Excuse me. Or anybody to wrap their brain around outside of what we read in Dix's book, Conversations on Common Things. Would there be something else that we could gain from it? And there is, right from chapter 1. I was really, really happy. So, but, because I want to get a little bit more prepared, although the weekend would do it for me for sure. There's something I'm going to put in next week in between. You knew it was going to happen. So did I. I don't know why. I don't know what is preventing me from jumping right in, other than I want a little bit more time. That's it. And this works perfectly in between for 1 week next week in our early bird classroom. So what is that going to be? That is going to be this book. I had promised to read it before. I picked out things because we were doing our 101 English grammar. I think that's what we did. So we really got through that book, but we kind of left this one aside. All we did was the 30 days has September, I think is all we did. But given the fact that we as in me, I am encouraging you to memorize things. Get that brain going on remembering to focus on the things that are lovely, that are pure, that are of good report, that are of good virtue, etc., etc. This is cool ways to remember stuff. So I think it goes perfectly well with our reading comprehension, with memorizing poetry or prayers, or things that are helpful to us to make sure that we remember them. I don't need to clog my brain with so many dates. I'm not that person. Other people, they do. They do know those dates. Okay. So, moving on. That looks like Allie's brother, John, or Jake. His name is Jake. Peace out. I'm just recognizing some people out there, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. So that's what we're going to do next week. We're going to read this, that are cool ways to remember stuff. And I forgot about a lot of these, so it goes perfectly well in our classroom here. Okay. And then I'm just thinking. I know. Don't you do that in the classroom all the time? The teacher's jabbering away, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, look at that bird. I wonder if it's a hummingbird. I wonder if my brother's a bird brain. His middle name is Jay. Okay. I have no brothers. Just letting you know. So let's get to it. So we're going to read a couple stories for reading comprehension that I have already, that I picked out questions for. I also need to get my glasses, of course. But I also need to get with the program here. Is that the first slide? There we go. Okay, let me get my glasses. That's what's taking me so long. That's it. Hold on, I'll be right back. You hum a little tune to yourself. I could wear my blue ones. I should have just worn my blue ones that are right here. These are really the ones that I keep around all the time because I don't wear them a lot, but I will. They match my outfit. Might as well. They also match the slide. I've got something going on there. There we go. Yeah, sure. Why not? They match the slide for sure. Okay, so let me get the PowerPoint up here. Now she is moving. Bam. We've got our poem. I want to see, I haven't practiced it since yesterday during this time. So, God hath not promised. No, I got to change that. What God hath promised. That's the name of this. So I'm going to change that to the right name. What God hath promised. God, then all of a sudden I get like it wrong when I get started. God hath not promised skies always blue, flower-strewn pathways all our lives through. God hath not promised sun without rain, rest without labor, peace without pain. But God hath promised strength for the day. Oh, it was supposed to be joy without sorrow. I always mix that one up. Joy without sorrow, peace without pain. But God hath promised strength for the day, rest for the labor, light for the way, grace for the trials, help from above, unfailing sympathy, undying love. Yeah, I did get that one wrong though. I did get that one line wrong. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing next week is memorizing, and those are the ways to help you memorize. Points to ponder. We already talked all about this, and ways to pray and pondering those ideas, and the golden rule, and my favorite part of Psalm 139. Now we've got our definition of religious freedom for you. I have it all up there clearly. I did not do an animation for it. Religion, which I got from our book that we are reading or looking at and studying from in our Bookless classroom, which is Man's Search for God. Since the very beginning of man has everything to do with what we call today religion. What is religion? A devotion to some principle. Strict fidelity, that's loyalty or faithfulness conscientiousness to that point, pious affection or attachment for that principle. That's religion. So everybody's got it. Everybody's got a little religion in them. So what is religious freedom? The ability to consciously devote yourself to some principle that is valuable and leads to good without fear of punishment. The principle has to be valuable. It is not religious freedom if the principle is not valuable. Got that, Milton Friedman? Got that, economists? They're the worst. They are the worst. I remember you over there, economists. What does, and here are questions you can ponder while we are going to read Daniel in the Lion's Den. So you've got a couple questions to ponder over there. Let's go ahead and get started with our reading. I'm going to read both stories first, because that's not a bad way for reading comprehension, okay? It's comprehending the story. It's not knowing the fine details of the story. Reading comprehension should be about understanding the message of the story, not about remembering the details. Do you understand the message of the story? Daniel in the Lion's Den. Here is one of our greatest examples of someone who stood firm in his faith. So remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about religious freedom. There he is in the lion's den. Long ago in the land of Babylon, there lived a man named Daniel. He was a very wise man, so wise, in fact, that the king of Babylon decided to take him into his service and put him in charge of much of the kingdom. This made many of the other noblemen jealous of Daniel. Daniel was Jewish. And so you are talking about the king of Babylon here, who is really taking what they consider to be slaves and raising him to a great position because he's very wise. They kept trying to find a way to turn King Darius against him. So the king's name is King Darius, who promoted Daniel because he's wise. They kept trying to find, we already said it. But Daniel was so honest and good that they could find no fault in him. Then they had an idea. These men knew that 3 times every day, Daniel went to his room, opened the window that looked toward the city of Jerusalem, which was his home, and prayed to God. We'll use his faith in God to bring him down, they told each other. Next, they went to King Darius and began to flatter and praise him. You are great and wise king. Your Majesty, they told him, no one is as great as you. Yes, you are right, Darius said, nodding. You are the one who provides all good things to us, they said. Yes, that's true as well, answered the king. We wish to make a new law so that everyone will know how great you are, they went on. For 30 days, no one shall pray to any god, but only the king himself. If anyone prays to a god, they shall be thrown to the lions. Now, great king, write the law and sign it and make it so that it cannot be changed. Did they have some drugged wine over here? The king was a vain man, and he was pleased with the idea of the law that would set him above even the gods. So without asking Daniel's advice, he signed the new law, and his decree went out through the kingdom. For 30 days, no one would be allowed to worship anyone except the king. Daniel heard that the law had been made, but every day he still went to his room 3 times, opened the window that looked towards Jerusalem, and offered his prayer to the Lord. Daniel could not help praying. In his mind, not doing it would mean betraying his faith in God. O King Darius, have you not made a law that if anyone offers a prayer, he shall be thrown into the den of lions? They asked. It is true, said the king. The law has been made, and it must stand. Yet there is a man who does not obey the law, they told him. Every day Daniel prays to his God 3 times. Every day. No, cried the king, then I will change the law. You cannot, his nobleman told him. You made the law so that it could not be changed. The king was heartbroken over what he had done, for he loved Daniel and knew that no one could take his place in the kingdom. All day until sun went down, he tried to find some way to save Daniel's life. But when evening came, the nobleman again reminded him that the law must be kept. And so here they are, cops, is basically what they are, carrying out a law that the king himself doesn't want carried out. Who are these noblemen? Where'd you come from, noblemen? Because we do have some people in history who call themselves the noble ones. Who are those people, noblemen? Doesn't seem like you're very noble. Very sadly, this king sent for Daniel and gave an order that he should be thrown into the den of lions. Perhaps your God, whom you serve so faithfully, will save you, Darius told him. They led Daniel to the mouth of a great pit where the lions were kept and threw him in. Over the mouth of the pit they placed a great stone. The king sealed it with his seal so that no one would dare take away the stone and let Daniel out. King Darius went to his palace, but he was so sad that he could not eat or listen to the music he loved. He could not sleep, for all through the night he was thinking of poor Daniel. Early the next morning he rose from his bed and hurried to the den of lions. He broke the seal and took away the stone. Look at that. Look at King Darius. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? In a full voice of sorrow, he called out, scarcely hoping to hear any answer except the roaring of the lions. Oh, Daniel, has your God kept you safe? He called. And out of the darkness in the den came the voice of Daniel saying, O king, God has sent his angels to protect me and has shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because God saw that I had done no wrong, and I have done no wrong towards you, O king. Look at Daniel. He wanted to make sure that the king knew that he didn't wrong the king either. He wanted to make sure that the king knew that he respected that king for doing what he did. Look at that. What a wonderful and God-led life for both the king and for Daniel. Do you think the king was sinful in throwing Daniel into the lion's den? I wish he wouldn't have. But then we wouldn't have this great story, would we? So it does kind of sound like God is in control, doesn't it? Again, it sounds like God is in control. And who doesn't want that? A God who says he is love? In control? What? Get rid of this thing on my face then. The things we ask an almighty God for. He shouldn't even be looking at that. By the way, I'm getting rid of it. Those are those 2 nasty hairs I've been telling you that come back like within seconds after they've been pulled. If you want to know the details, see the mirror. The king looked down and saw Daniel standing in the pit among the hungry lions. They had not harmed him all night long because he had trusted with all his heart that God would save him. I don't think Daniel was that old. I don't know. There was also Daniel and the fire. So it's kind of like, why didn't you learn your lesson? But I think that was Nebuchadnezzar, not King Darius. Keep repeating the same crimes. King Darius was overjoyed. He ordered his servants to take Daniel out of the den, and Daniel was brought out safe and sound. Then, by the king's command, the servants seized the noblemen who had plotted against Daniel and threw them into the pit. The hungry lions leapt upon them and tore them apart until nothing was left but their bones. Then Darius sent a message out to all the people under his rule, saying that they all should honor God, for he is the living God, and his kingdom shall have no end, he decreed. Daniel was returned to his high office, and he kept his faith in the Lord. This is just what he says. Then Darius sent out a message out to all the people under his rule, saying that they should all honor God, for he is the living God, and his kingdom shall have no end, he decreed. Yeah, you might want to think about that. Really is the living God. You might want to think about that. Let's read our next story, which is the story of Hanukkah. Okay? So remember, what we're talking about here is we're talking about religious freedom. All right? So don't forget, Daniel in the lion's den is a story, as we can probably see, about religious freedom. Right? Okay. The story of Hanukkah. The Jewish festival of Hanukkah celebrates the rededication of the temple in ancient Jerusalem after a triumph over the mighty Syrians. So Syria is the place where Canaan used to be. Canaan was the place that Abraham's descendants was promised. And you know what else I really like that has been going on that I have to say is really exceptional, that people have to understand? And that is, I believe that the Dome of Jerusalem is in flux with who owns it. I can't keep track of who owns it, and I really don't want to keep track of it, who took it, because then you want to know the details. Did they take it by force? What really happened, right? Was it a defending thing? Was it an attack on Israel? Was it from Israel? Was it an attack on Israel? Right? And this all clearly dates back to this land that Abraham was promised. Now, personally, the Muslims own all the area around around Jerusalem. I think they own Jerusalem, but maybe not the dome. I don't know, but how can Jewish people use the dome if the area around the dome is owned by Palestinians? So again, just a creation of mass media blitz about something, right? And putting lives on the line for our media stories is what it really seems to me to be about. But what I was going to say was this. It seems to me that the Jewish people have not reclaimed that, have not fought to reclaim their holy land, which Daniel is praying to in the direction of Jerusalem. And that says that what they know is that their God never said, build me a temple anyway. What that's saying is that they know God is in their hearts and that they don't need to be imperialistic about a piece of land. I don't know who's sacrificing the land. I don't know how fervently people are fighting for the land. I don't know all the reasons for fighting for the land. My guess is that Palestinians are saying, your Bible is saying that we are not worthy and we don't like it. Again, what they were saying not worthy was the polytheism and the hypocrisy of all that. The story of Hanukkah. Long ago, the land of Israel was conquered by the Syrians and ruled by a king named Antiochus. This king was a wicked man, always hungry for power and fame. He demanded that the Jews of Israel prove their loyalty to him by giving up their faith in God. From now on, you cannot worship your God, Antiochus told the Jews. Instead, you must bow down to my God, the great Zeus. Most Jews would not give up their faith, however, and went on worshiping God. When Antiochus heard how they disobeyed his command, he marched on Jerusalem with his army and looted the city. He entered the great temple, the holiest of places, and put up the statue of Zeus. Then he issued harsh orders. If anyone does not worship as I tell them, they will be put to death, he announced. Can you imagine replacing your holy statue with the statue of another god? He looks like a horrible man. Antiochus. I'll go back and show you the Daniel pictures too, which I didn't do a great job of. Look at this beautiful picture by Michael Hague. A beautiful illustration. I wonder if yeah, that's a little better. Takes the glare off of it. When Antiochus heard about these rebels, he sent an army to crush them. The mighty Syrians marched toward the hills, thousands of soldiers on horseback, thousands more on foot, and even huge elephants dressed for war. How could the Jews, with their small numbers and crude weapons, hope to defeat such a force? Then a miracle of sorts happened. Again and again, the Jews turned back the armies of Antiochus. After 3 long years of war, the Syrians gave up and went home. The Jews won because they fought hard for freedom and for their right to worship God. After their triumph, the first thing they did was go to Jerusalem. What they saw made them heartsick. The gates of the temple were burned, the walls were covered with filth, and the floors littered with garbage. Wild animals roamed inside, and weeds grew all about the place. I wonder if that's what that temple looks like. Today. At once they went to work. They built a new altar. They polished the temple floors, scrubbed the walls, and repaired the doors. At last, everything was ready to offer thanks to God. In the temple courtyard stood the menorah, a lamp meant to burn at all times. When the priests went to light it, they discovered they had only enough holy oil to last one day. There is no point in lighting it yet, cried one. We must have faith, said the high priest. He poured the oil into the lamp and lit it. And then another miracle happened. The oil burned all day and all night. It burned the next day and the next and the next. The lamp burnt for 8 days, even though there was only enough oil for one. It's a simple miracle, isn't it? But really a desperate miracle. People were in desperation. The people of Israel rejoiced, for they knew God was with them. Every year during the festival of Hanukkah, people of the Jewish faith celebrate by lighting menorahs in their homes. For 8 nights, the light reminds the whole world that God is with us even during the darkest times. It reminds us all of those heroes of long ago who defeated a mighty empire. With courage and faith, they fought and won the freedom to worship God. Okay, those are our stories. So, we've got 5 more minutes. Let's take a look at some of these questions on Daniel in the lion's den. What does the story in the Daniel, it should be clearly, in the lion's den teach us about religious freedom? What does the story Daniel in the lion's den teach us about religious freedom? Different religions often eat different foods because they believe different things about meals, sacrifice, and what God finds acceptable. Now, that was the other story. That was Daniel in the fire pit. But that's okay, because you can see that there are also different things that people do believe in ways that they pray to Jerusalem, for example, that are different. They pray to clearly different gods. They have different kinds of sacrifices. And they believe God finds their behavior acceptable and somebody else's behavior unacceptable. The king made a decree that forced Jewish slaves to pray to the king, King Darius. This decree was made because the king was tricked by evil men. The king could not reveal his mistake and face humiliation. That was pride. That was pride. So religious freedom sometimes is driven by pride. And religious freedom sometimes then makes it acceptable to us to force somebody else's beliefs to stop. The king also loved Daniel and thought he was a good servant. So that also teaches us that other people who believe different things might believe something that is good, that we can learn from, we like to listen to, or discuss, or talk about, right? Sometimes when you hear about what somebody else devotes their life to, their hearts to, I don't know. It just also makes me think about, then, why is there so much crime? Why is there so much crime? Why are people trying to shut up my good message? It always makes me think about that. I always wonder why people are trying to shut up my good message. And that they do it in very, very dangerous ways. I do wonder why. I mean, King Darius was very wise himself, wasn't he? Don't you think King Darius was also very wise? He recognized Daniel's talents. I also think King Darius believed in religious freedom too, because he let Daniel pray as he wanted to pray. And as soon as he knew those noblemen tricked him, and that Daniel, he didn't think about it. He didn't think about Daniel would be the one to be arrested. He was being prideful. And what the noblemen were doing was saying that there's nothing we can do except for carry out your law. Really? Because I've seen a lot of police officers not carry out the law. I've seen lots of justices not rule on the Constitution. It seems sometimes like some people do things out of mere convenience or pride. Right? Okay, let's see. So that's what the story of Daniel and Langdon teach us about some things to think about religious freedom. How did the king feel when he saw Daniel alive after being in the hungry lion's den? How did King Darius feel when he saw Daniel alive after being in the hungry lion's den? Daniel was in the hungry lion's den. He was rejoicing. He was rejoicing. What did the king now think of Daniel's God? He told us that he wants everybody to believe in Daniel's God. That's a wonderful thing, isn't it? What does this story tell us about making vows? Remember, we talked about making vows in our God's in Control. That sometimes making vows can make us anxious because that's not necessarily what God had in mind. Go ahead, make a vow to grow taller. You can't add 1 inch no matter how hard you think. Right? So what does it tell us about making vows? The king made a vow, and he was very sorry he made that vow. A lot of times we can't think of every single circumstance when we make a vow. And a lot of times we make vows out of pride because our pride is hurt. Can you think of times, I'm going to put that in there. Oops. I'm going to put that in there. So maybe this weekend on our 4 days off, before we go into our 4 days off, you might want to think about this last question. Can you think of a time when you made a vow out of pride because you were hurt? And what ended up happening? Okay, let me see what the next slide says. The story of Hanukkah. Oh, actually, we've got all the answers there too. So think about that story. There are some answers there for you. That's something that you can do on your 4 days off. Review the story in your head, the story of Hanukkah. And we will come back on Almighty Tuesday and finish that story And then what we're going to do is we're going to go right into our 30 days has September, cool ways to remember stuff. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. We have just finished a lot of hard work for our 3 days on in the classroom, where we are constantly making your mind, your body, and your spirit healthier, no matter what those evil people out there think we're doing in here, and trying to pervert it in ways that make them money or draw attention to themselves or make them look good or fill their being with pride. We are here to just keep on task, making your mind, your body, and your spirit healthier. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope you have some things to do now that your 4 days off are starting, early birds. I'll see you back here on Tuesday, Almighty Tuesday. It was day 257, October 9th, in the classroom.